Welcome back. We have found an entrance to the second Binding Coil of Bahamut. It's in the North Shroud, and there are 4 coils. I hate them all. Let's get into it. On turn 1, before we even enter the Starship Hulk, we're greeted by this dumb plant named Rafflesia. This fight was just terrible. Usually it's fun to figure out mechanics and be challenged, but this boss was just a pain. Lala needed a ton of healing, but the boss also devoured and spat me out on a regular basis. Like, literally, I would be saying, oh, time to go heal Lala, and like clockwork, I would get interrupted, and it just pissed me off. There were these bramble patches that grew across the arena. You can stand in them and not take damage, but if you try to move, you're super slow and you take pretty heavy damage. In theory, I think that you can damage the seeds in time to prevent them from growing into brambles, but I could never do it in time. I would regularly get spat out into bramble patches, but thankfully I have my loom ability, which lets me warp out. This just sucked. From the next point on, I had finished the final patches of A Realm Reborn, and Lala had actually progressed into Heavensward to complete their paladin job quests. This gave them access to Clemency, which fully restores my health and really helps me save MP. So on turn 2, we encounter these experimental chimera monsters that, man, what were the Elegants doing with these weird experiments up in their space prison? Apparently these were put here to prevent people from messing around with their little Bahamut battery inside Dalamud. Melusine was crazy. She inflicts this status that when the status runs out, you get this cone of petrification vision. So Lala and I had to make sure not to be looking at each other at that moment, otherwise we would petrify each other. And we also had to take care not to look at Melusine because she would get an attack up buff from this. And that was really bad because she kept targeting me with these flame pools that were just destroying me. Some giants called Rhinos come out periodically, and they have actually 1,000,000 hit points. I know because they are vulnerable to missile, and I was hitting them for 500,000. But it's much easier to petrify them with your stone gaze, because then they'll go down in one hit, they'll shatter. There were more mechanics going on. This fight was, it just was like a mess. We didn't feel super good about clearing it. We got her down to 5% in one pull, but then wiped. And then we got her down to 15, but she just kept targeting me with the flame pools, and I just couldn't keep up. But Lala managed to persist and take her down for the clear. Whenever we clear one of these raid bosses, we like to look up the guide after to see, like, were there mechanics that we missed? Were we interpreting this correctly? It just kind of helps us learn. And there were a number of mechanics on Melusine that we didn't get. You're not meant to kill the frozen Rhinos right away. You are meant to use them from protection from this raid-wide petrification effect that one of the players gets. Anyway, we completely missed that, but we cleared it, so whatever. Turn 3 was a puzzle for sure, and the amount of time that we had to spend on it, the experimentation that we had to do is really too much to cover without it being confusing. So I'll just say how the boss actually works. There are different towers that spawn in the cardinal positions, and they will charge up. If multiple towers charge up at the same rate, the boss can tether to them and get defense and damage buffs. What you want to do is take a little dip, give a little blood sacrifice to the tower, and you basically want all the towers to be offset from each other. There were a couple different attacks on me. Homing Missile, which did a little damage, and Gaseous Bomb, which does huge damage. Initially we thought that Gaseous Bomb was meant to blow up one of the towers because just by coincidence, there were several times where I would go stand over there and it appeared that the Gaseous Bomb, which this is a highly timed boss as well, like the Gaseous Bomb going off does actually coincide with a natural charging of the tower, but I thought that we were blowing it up. So the rigid timing of this boss made it a little hard to figure out, actually. The next important mechanic that we figured out is that below a certain health, once a set of towers disappears, the boss will whip out something called Ballistic Missile. which will bind both of us and wipe the party because we're only 2 people. And we tested a bunch of scenarios and found out that we couldn't get the boss below 75 health. So the towers will go down and you just don't touch the boss. When another set of towers comes up, the boss will no longer cast Ballistic Missile, so you just kind of go ham. We ran into some difficulty when the next set of towers went down because Ballistic Missile was coming out no matter what. We tried different health thresholds for this one. We figured like we could skip a phase. We tried 65, we tried 55. The lowest we were able to get it was 48%. Ballistic Missile every time. As we continued experimenting, I used Final Sting, where I give up my life to do massive damage. And that brought us below 45%. And this did indeed let Lala avoid Ballistic Missile. So we were like, okay, we know for sure that we can skip this phase if we just get to that point. We saw a light at the end of the tunnel. When we came back to the avatar, it was after I had entered Heavensward, and so I had gear for level 60. So it became a lot easier to get the boss below 45%. However, most of the time, Ballistic Missile was still coming. And so I looked back over the videos and it was driving us insane. I actually made a spreadsheet detailing all of our attempts so that we could try to recreate the conditions where Ballistic Missile was skipped. We used identical timing, boss HP at specific times, our HP at specific times. I was like, there's gotta be something else going on here. Through dozens of attempts, we just could not consistently skip the Ballistic Missile. And this was a point where we felt okay looking at a guide because something was not right here. And the guide didn't tell us anything. The guide said that below 45%, you're in a new phase. The avatar will no longer use Ballistic Missile. We found a Reddit post where people were talking about this, about how Ballistic Missile would sometimes come out when the avatar was below 45%, and it didn't prevent them from clearing, but they were just wondering, you know, it was bothering them why it was inconsistent. They felt like they didn't understand it. I don't know the mechanic behind this. I don't know if this murky divide between the middle and final phase is intended, but in our case, this inconsistent behavior did prevent us from clearing. We could not. We burned the boss down to, I think, 26% at one point, and it wasn't enough. We still got Ballistic Missile. All the solo clears that I could find were people at a much higher level and item level who would hold the boss at 75, and as soon as the towers appear, they just burn the boss down to 0, which wasn't an option for us. So, at this point, we brought in our friend Whoosh, who was just starting to learn Red Mage. It took a few attempts to get situated, but we had spent a lot of time learning this and working on this, and we managed to get a run where Ballistic Missile came out, and it did a small circle on me, so Lala was able to step in, and we finished it off. Fuck you!
That was all we needed.
Fuck this thing for the rest of my life. The next turn is a fight with Nael deus Darnus, who was a Garlean legatus responsible for Dalamud's fall. He helmed the Meteor Project. Except now, he's a lady and a Bahamut superfan. I didn't know until after the fact that the first half of this fight is like a love story to the final days of 1.0. Same music, same arena, same attacks, same rocks that are called lunar fragments. I didn't realize until looking into this original fight that the boulders are meant to be fragments of the moon. Anyway, I just thought that was really cool. We got so stuck on the first phase. There are like 5 different indicators that appear over your head. It got so complicated that I just pulled out Photoshop mid-raid to make a reference sheet. I cannot emphasize enough how much weird experimentation we had to do just to figure out the meteors. We didn't know if the colors meant something. We tried stacking the rocks, putting them on opposite sides of the arena, standing behind them, standing inside them. But eventually we would always wipe to debris burst, which happens anytime 2 fallen rocks are too close together. So we left it alone for a week or so while we did the extreme primals, and we came back with a little more raiding experience. And we realized that the rocks had to be spaced out in a certain way. Some of the rocks spawn golems, and if those golems touch each other, they are going to combine into a big golem who will quickly enrage and wipe the party. And they spawn 3 at a time, So keeping them apart was very tricky as a duo, but thankfully they are vulnerable to missile and they take a while to start moving, so we usually manage this okay. The golems can also eat the other boulders to gain buffs, and it turns out that we actually want them to do that because it gives us more space for another set of boulders, and it also means that they won't explode and wipe the party when Nael starts her next phase. When you deal with the last set of golems, Nael casts Mega Flare and calls upon this huge monolith that crashes into the center of the arena. A dragon named the Ghost of Mericidia comes out, definitely related to the dragons who accompanied Twintania on the previous raid. Once Nael is down to 50% or so, she will cast Bahamut's Favor. This is where we just ran into a brick wall as a duo. We ran this part like a dozen times. There's an ice dragon, a fire dragon, and a thunder dragon, and they will pelt you with attacks that will give you sort of like an elemental vulnerability. So the ice dragon pelts you with a snowball, and if you get hit by another snowball, you will die instantly. You need to get hit by a fireball to cleanse the ice bitten status before you can take another snowball to the face. The fire dragon is visibly tethered to one player and will target them with a fire pool where other players can come congregate, hang out, warm up. Lala managed to figure out that the ice dragon was hitting us in a sequence for sure, and it attacked much more frequently than the fire dragon, which was a problem. We just didn't have enough bodies. So we figured if we had at least one more person, that would give us enough time to catch a fireball to remove the ice bitten status, and we might be able to survive long enough to beat Nael. So we pulled in Whoosh, gave him a little rundown, we busted out some raid markers. Wait, I just realized I spelled out CIA with these markers. We actually got her down to 0.8%, and then the party wiped to ice balls. But here's the final clear. You look like a fucking circus performer.
The snowman? Nah, I'm not really mad at that guy.
Yeah, we're not even gonna discuss the snowman.
I don't want to lower my credibility by attacking a small snowman.
It really does prefer to go on me, this red rock. Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was random.
It's a high percentage.
I guess it's still in the statistical realm of being random.
There's
Was she?
Stack.
Mm-hmm.
So I immediately was like, no, I'm a leper. I've killed too many raid groups with shit like that in WoW, where it's just like, oh,
you're like, I need to get as far away from everyone as possible. Okay.
I got that.
It's always better to die instead of killing the whole raid. Not that it's good, but
Listen, I understand. Giving your life for the raid.
I'm here for the raid.
It's my whole identity as a blue mage.
We have a meat shield, we have a suicide bomber, and we have, I don't know, something that is bound to melt before the fight ends. Look at that. Look, I've got that distance.
Something? Thirds?
Third. Kind of works out perfectly with these markers.
It does. Yeah, it's. I think it's by design. Okay, we're going. It's okay though.
Y'all are.
It's okay. It's okay. Oh shit. Fuck. Okay, this one's gonna be real awkward in the middle. I did not expect to get 3.
That might be an we didn't get an explosion. Okay.
No, they're not so close.
I'm dropping right here. Oh,
You're gonna kill that right away.
yeah.
Thank you for getting the Wushi. And does counterclockwise work, or does that bring me too close? No, we're okay. Over here. And grab this one in the middle, so that hopefully I'll be done by the time.
Okay. Last turn around. Dead. Okay.
Stack, so I can get whatever.
Yeah, you have to stay within 10 yalms, whatever
the fuck a
that
yalm
is, of
is.
me. sounds like it's supposed to be hard.
Yeah. Must be fun to work on localizing this game.
There's a big window in this game for like when things happen.
Should cast ready. I love Luce just wiggling around you tethered like Surecast. Like one of those children at a supermarket.
Dad, I want some candy. Heal me.
There you go.
Okay. Dragon friend will be coming down soon.
There it is.
Binding chain.
Clear. Okay, Bahamut's favor.
Go.
I'm just gonna do it now.
Yeah.
Oh!
3%.
3%. Let's go, gang. Let's go, let's go.
1%.
Let's go. 0.8.
0.6.
Let's go!
Easy. First shot.
Alright, I'm watching a cutscene.
Let me know when you guys are out of the cutscene.
Oh, that face plant.
GG. Easy game. Thank you, Draggy.
Dude, this fucking snowman in my cutscene. You guys wouldn't believe it? After this, we finally find out about Louisoix's fate. It's really the only way that they could meaningfully involve him without it being main story. It turns out that Nael van Darnus was enthralled to Bahamut when he died in the Calamity, and Bahamut brought him back in this space and in this form that was from his memories, it seems. Likewise, Louisoix has been brought back as another thrall to Bahamut. He strikes at Alisaie when she moves to hack the mainframe of the binding coil. Now it becomes clear that the binding coils need to be destroyed so that, yes, Bahamut's ether can finally return to the planet after thousands of years, but also so that Louisoix can be free. I predict this will be a very sad moment when it wraps up in the final coil, which we just started. It seems very tough already. As before, to be continued.